Well, good evening. It is Tuesday, May 13th, 2025. It is 6 p.m. and we're in the council chambers of the city of Platteville, and I am calling the meeting to order. We'll start with roll call. Colette.
Kathy Kopp,
Here.
Tom Knoll,
Here.
Lynn Parrott,
Here.
Tony McFall,
Here.
Barbara Doss,
Here.
Bob Gates,
Here.
and Ken Killian is excused.
Okay, so the first thing on our agenda is consideration of the consent agenda. The following items may be approved on a single motion and vote due to their routine nature of previous discussion. If you want to discuss something separately, please let us know. First are the council minutes from our April 22nd regular meeting, payment of bills. We have the financial report for April, appointments to boards and commissions, and tonight I have several. To the Commission on Aging, Napoleon Hall, to the Housing Authority, Joyce Spouse, to the Plan Commission, reaffirming the Tim Durst appointment that I made before that was a partial term and then full to 5/1/28, and Deb Rice to the Police and Fire Commission. Again, there are many openings, and so please continue to send in applications. Unfortunately, everyone can't be on the same board. I get a lot of applications for one or two boards, and then there's no vacancies. Licenses, we have 1- and 2-year operator licenses to serve and sell alcohol, as are in your packet. A change of agent for the Class A combination beer and alcohol license for Quick Trip Inc. For the premises at 430 South Water Street. That's Quick Trip number 729. The new agent is Kelly Schuler. Temporary Class B license to serve wine. The license goes to the Platteville Main Street program for Friday, June 20th, 4 to 8 p.m. This is the Uncorked Wine Walk. We also have some banner permits, June 20 through July 4 for Heritage Day, which is Friday, July 4th at the museums. July 25th to July 9 for Mine Day, which is August 9th at the museums. A run and walk permit for the Kiwanis Badger Crawl, which is this Saturday, May 17th, from 9 to 11 at Mountain View Park. And we have a street closing permit, 2nd Street from Main Street to Furnace Street, and Mineral Street to Oak Street to 3rd Street for the annual Southwest Music Festival on Saturday, July 19th from 8 to midnight. Finally, we have the write-off of uncollectible personal property taxes, as were in your packet. I believe they totaled something like $91.27. So do I have a motion on the consent agenda or questions?
I'll move to approve all items listed under consent agenda.
Second. Okay, we have a motion by Bob and a second by Kathy to approve the consent agenda as presented. We'll vote.
Kopp,
Yes.
Knoll,
Yes.
Parrott,
Yes.
McFall,
Yes.
Doss,
Yes.
Gates,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay, I'd like to start by commending fellow council members Bob Gates, Tom Knoll, and Kathy Kopp, and our staff members Clint, City Manager Clint, and Administrative Director Nicola. And then I joined them. The 6 of us went to Madison last Wednesday to lobby on behalf of the city and express the city's needs to legislators and to hear a very concerning demographic report about how our how we're not having a lot of people at the 0 to 18 level, but we're having a lot more people at the upper level. So some concerning demographics for the state in terms of even workforce and those kinds of things. So we will, I haven't downloaded that PowerPoint, but I will download that PowerPoint and share it. Clint, I don't know if you've downloaded it or not.
I did receive it from Dale Knapp. He sent it to me 2 days ago, one day ago.
Okay,
Whatever.
so you can distribute it to council and then anybody else who wants to see, and perhaps the whole staff, because I think it's pertinent. So thank you to all for taking the day. It was a good day. Other comments from council members, or I had nobody register. Like, okay, Clint?
Wanted to speak on Pine Street. It's my understanding that we've had some folks that have been making comment through social media and then to council members. I know we've heard it here as well. A reminder that Pine Street suffered a significant water main breakage a few weeks back. Our team scrambled, and within 24 hours, I think we had the water line replaced and had it patched. Patch in there right now is certainly a temporary type of solution, but it is causing traffic to have to slow down, and some folks are concerned. As a solution being brought forward, I would defer to Director Crowfoot to tell you what we're doing to try to remedy that situation.
Tomorrow, we'll be discussing this at the Water and Sewer Commission meeting regarding more permanent repairs and the extent of replacement of additional concrete panels that were undermined during the incident. So basically more to come tomorrow, but we will be continuing to maintain the patch until it's replaced permanently with concrete.
Howard, has there been any thought about creating a detour for traffic going west on Pine Street? Have we ever, I mean, I've heard people are concerned about their tires, they're bouncing through, all kinds of things. Have we considered perhaps making a detour? I don't know where that would be, if it would be Furnace Street or whatever, and suggesting that people use an alternate route.
Passenger vehicles could easily use Main Street. It's a little more difficult for the larger vehicles because of the turning at each end for either Main or Furnace to get through there. When we did this during the emergency patch, we ended up having to remove parking up by the intersection of Pine and Chestnut in order to allow large vehicles to turn back onto Chestnut Street, which causes other problems for businesses in that area. So
I understand that. I did drive through that hole today. And I don't know if any other council members have driven through that hole, but certainly the warm weather we're having with the blacktop and it's softening. I mean, there were some real, I'm going to just call them ruts.
sure.
In that. And so I
will
would
keep
urge
working.
you to think about an alternate route. I mean, you know, even if you post something that says caution ahead, consider an alternate route or whatever, I think would be helpful, perhaps. And I don't know if any other
Thank you.
council member has some ideas, but you know, I do know because I purposely went through it today, just so I have been avoiding it, knowing it's there, but today I went through it on purpose. So,
Thank you.
all right. Kathy, did you have something you wanted to talk about here in citizens' comments?
I can. I was gonna wait for the police report, but this is National Law Enforcement Week, and the police department is hosting an open house tomorrow night at the station at 5 o'clock. And then on Friday morning, they're participating in Cops on a Roof. So fundraiser for Special Olympics at the Dunkin' Donuts from 6 in the morning to 10. So perfect place to grab your coffee, breakfast, and help out both the PD and the Special Olympics. And then I would like to note too that the Grant County Sheriff's Department, in recognition of National Law Enforcement Week, is hosting their annual memorial service program tomorrow at the Sheriff's Department at 11:30. Everyone's invited to come.
Doug, did you want to say any more?
I do not, other than to reaffirm that we will be at Dunkin' because they have donuts.
I think that goes together, right?
Ooh,
Dunkin'
that
and
goes back
Donuts or
away.
police and donuts. I don't know. It's one of those analogy things, you know? Um,
Good. That's good.
The police have their community picnic yet?
no, but it's open house at the police department tomorrow night. And I believe Doug's grilling hot dogs or something. I don't know.
I think we roped Lieutenant Grubbin into doing that.
Oh, okay.
Doug's gonna sit there and criticize.
Right. Well, okay, that's good to know. So, it's not the community picnic, but it is open house at the police department. And so we encourage people to go.
We're trying the open house tomorrow night, maybe as an option to the community picnic. Kind of feel like that has run its course, so
Okay.
we need to shake things up.
Okay, and I guess just for the benefit of all, I'd like to hear from Clint and the chief of our fire department on the good news that we received in the last couple weeks and the progress that we're making on this big project.
Yeah, to kind of put things in context, we've been, of course, building towards our starting line. As you know, we had our grand opening, our
Grand
great,
shovel.
our yes, our groundbreaking. Thank you very much. But behind the scenes, then too, we continue working through all the appropriate paperwork and checks that we need to get complete. And I'll let Ryan share our news with the community here.
Sure, I think the biggest things are the USDA approvals to move forward with the construction. And I think many have seen, probably if they've driven through, that they've started the site prep. So quite a different look, and not the final look, of course. You know, people are probably thinking we're going to build this thing up on a pedestal the way they're mounting things up, but that's part of the soil compaction process that they do. So over the next month, you'll see a lot of site work prepping out there, and then they hope to in June start with digging for foundations and the building. So I think it's an exciting time to be moving forward right now.
Good, good. All right, anybody else? I think that those are the big projects I know of. All right, then we'll go on our agenda to the reports that were in your packet. Historic Preservation Commission report was in your packet. Ken is the rep. He is not here, of course. Housing Authority Board, I'm the rep, and I would say that we continue to search for a new part-time executive director. Thought we had made that hire, and then that didn't happen as we thought it would. So we're continuing to seek a new executive director. That's a part-time position. Airport Commission, Tony.
I was actually not there for that meeting, so I don't really know what to tell you.
Okay, it's all right. Police and Fire Commission, anything further, Kathy?
No, nothing further to add.
Okay, other reports in your packet were the water and sewer financial report, the airport financial report, our quarterly update on our capital improvement program, the status report. Anybody with questions on that? Okay, and then department progress reports. Any questions on those? All right, then we'll go on to the action items on our agenda. The first is contract 8-25 for highway painting. Howard.
Yes, thank you. This is our annual painting for center lines and other pavement markings on the major roads and highways. And this year we intend to repaint Broadway from Main to Madison and East Side Road from Enterprise to Business 151. If bid prices are within budget, we have an alternate A, Mineral Street from Business 151 to Valley Road. You have an accompanying map. The base bid is in red, alternate is in green. I have some statistics on when these streets were last painted. The manufacturers recommend repainting every 5 years. Our local experience is that it lasts about 8 years, and we are a little bit behind on those. We received 2 bids, Century Traffic and Forward Traffic and Marking. Low bid was by Century Traffic. They did the painting contract in 2023. The base and alternate bids are below the budgeted amount, so staff is recommending award with alternate A to Century Traffic at the bid price of $55,836.50.
Okay, questions on our annual painting of center lines and other pavement markings? Okay, then if there are no additional questions, I'd take a motion.
I move to award contract 8-25 for highway painting with alternate A to Century Traffic at the bid price of $55,836.50.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Bob, second by Tom to award contract 8-25 highway painting. Colette will vote.
Cop,
Yes.
Null,
Yes.
Parrot,
Yes.
McFall,
Yes.
Doss,
Yes.
Gates,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is resolution 25-03 to submit a DNR grant application for the Southeast Rail Corridor Trail land acquisition, and this is an amendment to a grant that was submitted and awarded about a year ago. So Joe?
Yes, so as you mentioned, we did receive a grant to assist with that project to connect Business Highway 151 East Side Road with a trail extension. We did receive the grant as we got further into the project, received some more accurate parcel sizes for the land that we were acquiring. That threw off the acquisition costs, so it was going to cost more than originally anticipated. So this resolution would be in support of a amended application to the DNR to receive additional funds up to $46,721, which should be enough to complete the anticipated acquisition. So same as before, the grant requires a local match, but the Arboretum has agreed to provide that match through donations. So council does have to approve the resolution authorizing the submittal of the grant application.
Is the grant a 50-50 or an 80-20? I don't remember.
50-50.
50-50?
Yep.
So this amendment requests an additional 46, so the fundraising on this would be 23 something, right?
From the Arboretum,
From
correct.
the Arboretum.
Additional to what they were.
An additional to what they've
Yeah.
already committed to. Okay. Any other questions?
So I'll make a motion.
Okay,
Motion to approve the application for a DNR grant for the Southeast Rail Corridor Trail Land Acquisition Amendment as proposed, including approval of the required resolution.
Second.
a motion by Tom, seconded by Kathy to approve application for this DNR grant for the Southeast Rail Corridor Trail Land Acquisition. And this is an amendment. And the resolution required. We'll vote, Colette.
Cop, Cop,
Yes.
Null,
Yes.
Parrot,
Yes.
McFall,
Yes.
Doss,
Yes.
Gates,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay, next we have resolution 25-04 for DNR trail grants. This is trailhead parking. And I believe this should be Howard.
Yes, and Bob will support as needed. We require a resolution for our grants. This would be a 50-50 grant for trailhead parking at the east end of Fairfield Drive. Similarly, it would also serve the adjoining soccer fields. This would be phase one of a multi-phase project that would include continuing to expand the parking, paving and lighting, and possibly amenities. This property was donated, and then there was a concept plan in 2008 for parking area. And so these improvements would reduce some of the current parking and safety issues by not having a designated drop-off and pickup area for the trail users or soccer participants. If this is awarded, we would install an access road and gravel parking area initially using DNR grant funds matched with park impact fees and other sources up to an $80,000 project. And you can see our proposed breakout of other sources would include other trail users for is what we're looking at this point. So
That didn't. Other trail user. You mean the other sources would include other trail
Would it-
users?
yes, it would include other trail users.
Okay.
Sorry. And so we recommend that you approve this resolution.
I'm unclear. It says you're installing an access road. Is the access road going to be blacktopped?
At this point, no.
So the access road and gravel, so it's a gravel access road and a gravel parking area.
That's correct.
Okay. That's confusing, especially when you look at the hot mix asphalt pavement diagram that's on the map. It makes it appear as if you're going to put asphalt on the road. Questions on this? Other people with questions?
I just had a question regarding the map. What are the symbols in the olive section?
Those would be potential future amenities, possible playground structures or picnic tables or things of that nature. But that would be in a future phase.
Thank you.
Other questions?
I believe it was brought up at our last meeting. Has there been contact with the residents in that area to the point that they understand that this is being proposed?
I've actually reached out to a couple of them. Well, myself, since I'm on the corner there, but my direct neighbors, Trent and Kendra, I talked to them. They were up in, sorry, they're not against it. They were hoping for more of a long-term option, but from what I understand, that may be decades from happening at this point. And then the guy across the street from us, who's on the opposite side of I think he's on Cody Parkway technically, he didn't have a real big problem with it at all. It doesn't really affect him other than people walking through his yard for soccer. Or the other. And then the third house there, I didn't get a chance to talk to them yet. There's a duplex, and I have not talked to those two.
How about anybody from our staff talking to the people in the duplex?
No, I tried to reach out to them, but I got no response. So that's when I reached out to Tony to see if he could assist.
Okay, Tony, you said hoping for a longer term plan. Do you mean the whole parking lot and asphalt now, or?
No, I mean like the general idea of creating more of a soccer complex, not a complex, but like multiple fields and, kind of the longer term plan that was introduced in 2008. They were hoping for more of that. So they didn't know if the parking lot behind the houses made a lot of sense, if they're going to eventually build tennis courts and, I forget what else is on there. Everything else that's on there, but if that's not being built for another 20 years, it makes more sense to get something done now.
Hey, Bob, do you have any comment on that?
I wish we could do it all right now, but I don't think that's in the cards.
So will this Prairie View Park be in your park plan that we need to update by no later than April 1st of 2026?
Absolutely, yes. We are really encouraged by the use of the soccer. We made improvements to that field so we could actually use it for its intended use. We rolled it and we've reseeded it a couple times, and now it is being used. And unfortunately, then good things create other issues. So.
Right. Okay. Okay, any other questions? Then do I hear a motion?
I make a motion. I motion to move to approve resolution 25-04, DNR trail grant, trailhead parking.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I hear a
Second.
second? Okay, we have a motion by Lynn and a second by Tom. This is an $80,000 grant, $80,000 grant application half, and it's a 50-50 grant. So our 50% would come from park impact fees and other sources. We'll vote. Colette?
Cop,
Yes.
Null,
Yes.
Parrot,
Yes.
McFall,
Yes.
Doss,
Yes.
Gates,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay, the last action item on our agenda is Resolution 25-05 for DNR trail grants. This would be the Mountain View Park Circular Trail Maintenance. Howard?
Yes. We also need a resolution of support for this grant request as well. This one would be for an 80-20 grant for maintenance funding to help maintain the circular trail in Mountain View Park. They're capped at $100,000. The award would be announced in fall of this year for construction of next year. I've identified up to 7 locations in need of repair, which is about 25% of the length of the trail. And so if awarded, we would conduct repairs at up to those 7 locations. We would need to budget the $20,000 match in 2026 because that's when the construction would take place. So staff recommends that you approve 25-05.
Okay, questions on this? Can somebody tell me when this trail was built?
It's in the early 90s, early to mid 90s.
And has it ever been,
We did some minor crack filling a few years back, and I think a seal coat a few years back. But as far as I know, that's been about all, other than parks crews filling patch holes and stuff like that.
all right, we've heard this resolution. Does anybody have any other questions or want to make a motion?
Make a motion. Move to approve resolution 25-05 DNR trail grant maintenance.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve resolution 25-05 for a DNR trail grant for Mountain View Park Circular Trail Maintenance. Colette will vote.
Cop,
Yes.
Null,
Yes.
Parrot,
Yes.
McFall,
Yes.
Doss,
Yes.
Gates,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay, we'll move now into information and discussion. The first of these items is contract 7-25 for street maintenance, the thin overlay program.
Yes, thank you. We annually do a project for doing overlays on selected streets using the estimated 110,000 of wheel tax funding. The thin overlay is a 3/4 inch overlay over the existing pavement to enhance the ride for 7 to 10 years. We opened one bid from Iverson Construction, nothing unusual about that. We have a spreadsheet and map with our proposed streets. And so the streets for the base bid would cost just over $88,000. If we selected both additional streets, the total would be 117, 230, and 37, or $7,200 over budget. Nicola helped me with this, said that the trend has been the actual revenues have exceeded the expected revenues, and that we have an accumulated revenue over expenditure of about $17,000. And we believe that it would be prudent to use that to fund this 7,200 over budget. So we're recommending that the base bid and both alternates be approved. And if you have any questions about the wheel tax, I'm sure Nicola can explain that.
Okay, questions? Howard, how long have we been doing wheel tax?
16?
I think so. That was before I came on board.
Excuse me?
I think it's been
Yeah, it was
since
bef-
2016.
It was
15
before
or
I came
16.
on board, but not long before, and I came on board in 2017, so 2016 sounds correct.
So Jody, it would be nice if we saw something about the value of wheel tax and how many roads we've done in the 16 years that we've been collecting wheel tax. I think that would be an, I think that would be an appropriate inclusion in some publication at some point in time, because this is, again, very helpful, helping us to maintain roads that, we know that we're 100 years behind on, but it certainly has been useful for that program. All right, next item on the agenda then, if nobody has additional questions, resolution in support of the Grant County Sheriff's Department seeking and applying for grants to fund a dispatch study. Chief.
With an eye to the future, the Platteville PD and the Grant County Sheriff's Department are exploring options for the future delivery of emergency communications and emergency notifications in southwest Wisconsin. This area is one of the core services provided by each agency, and it includes answering 911 calls, emergency notifications, and radio communications for first responders. The Grant County Communications Center is the primary public service answering point, or PSAP, for Grant County. And Platteville's Dispatch Center is considered a secondary PSAP. Funding at the state level is designed so the primary PSAP is the recipient, and emergency communication grants are structured to go to the primary PSAP. So that kind of leaves Platteville self-funded. Recruiting and maintaining staff in both of the communication centers is increasing in difficulty. The potential of consolidating the two agencies into one location is worth exploring in depth to evaluate if it's a viable option for emergency communications. An RFP has been developed jointly by staff at both the Grant County Sheriff's Department and Platteville PD to solicit for proposals from qualified vendors who specialize in the field of emergency communications. Ultimately, we'll hopefully receive a number of proposals and we'll select a vendor, and then we would seek to pay for the vendor through a 2025 PSAP grant that is offered at the state level. If the grant submission is successful, the grant funds would be used to pay for an in-depth study of the current delivery of emergency communications, the future needs of both agencies and the people they serve, technology requirements, and trends in the field of emergency communications. The grant does have a local match requirement of 10%, which would be split equally between Grant and Platteville. We do not have any return proposals yet, so we're not sure on the exact amount what this commitment would be. But based on similar studies elsewhere, it's estimated that Platteville's portion of the local match would be approximately $4,000. The study will include recommendations on the location of a potential consolidated communications center, governance options, funding options, staffing suggestions, technology recommendations, and a potential timeline for implementation. Done properly, the study will also include a recommendation if consolidation is truly the best option for the two agencies to pursue.
So the total grant application, the total expected amount is $80,000 for this study?
Approximately, based on studies elsewhere.
Yeah, $80,000. That's what I thought as you said that. Other questions? I want other people to have an opportunity to question, not just me.
I guess I just want to make a comment. I have the advantage of having perspective from the county side of it, and this is a very complicated process, and it's an important one that needs to be addressed, and the best way is to have a study done. I don't see how there's been a lot of talk on both sides of how to do things, and study is really going to point everybody in the right direction.
That's what we're hoping to achieve. And the one nice thing is that independently, both of the agencies have taken pretty good steps towards making their the communications network between the two entities fully redundant. So that via the fiber optic loop that I'm sure you've heard ad nauseum about, if that goes down one way, it'll cycle back the other way for us and vice versa. And we also have increased the resilience and durability of the both systems so that this isn't something we have to rush into, which is not what you would want, given, like you said, the complexity of the issue.
Other people? Otherwise, I will say that a former council person talked to me about this. This was on her radar for many years. So that council person, that retired council person, was very happy to see this on the agenda, as was I, because I believe this is another one of those things that we've been talking about for maybe 20 years, at least 15,
Yep. And
easily 15.
probably more like 20.
Yeah.
But when I was typing up my notes, that council person's face was in the back of my head.
Yep.
Because I knew that was
Not to name that.
that was
person.
near and dear to her.
Yeah, that was near and dear to her. Other questions? And so and with the grant, I mean, since Grant County is the primary, the PSAP or whatever it was, the grant is a state grant. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Okay, it's a state-funded grant. Clint, I have a question about the grant programs that the state implemented through WEDC or WHEDC or one of those agencies about innovation grants and stuff where, you get money because two groups two municipalities or two government units come together to create. Is that also a possibility?
You'd submit for it and they would tell you if that's going to be selected or not, but that potentially could be. You would have our services essentially being handled by Grant County if it
Right.
was handled in full. If the study suggests that, and not to get too far out in front of it, if the study suggests that you still want to maintain redundancies or have some type of an incremental thing, then that might get a little bit more in the gray. But if we get to a point of this is the study and these are all the pieces that have to go into play to do a transition like that, then that might be a
And so
terrific
Doug, you're
opportunity.
aware of these innovation grants, as is Craig and others that are
Yes,
yeah.
and we've been working with emergency management, and there are potentially other grant funds that we could leverage to help with this project.
Good. So we'll have to pass that. There'll be a formal resolution at the next meeting to pass. Okay. The next item on our agenda, anybody with any other questions on the dispatch study and request? Okay, then let's go on to the next item on the agenda, which is rezoning for 500 North Water Street. Joe?
Yes, we received a request from the property owner, 500 North Water Street. He'd like to change the zoning of the property. It's currently B1 neighborhood business. He'd like to rezone it to R2, which is 1 and 2 family residential. So historically, that property had a small business structure on it and then also a small residence. Back in 2012, the current owner removed the business building, started to remodel the residential building, essentially got the exterior done, but the inside is essentially a shell at this point. It's been primarily used as storage. he'd like to finish that, but it's, the biggest issue is that structure does not have a basement. And it's got an extremely small crawl space. So running plumbing, wiring, HVAC, whatever is extremely difficult. So what he'd like to do instead is remove that building and put up a new house at the same location. The issue that he's running into is that building is currently a legal non-conforming structure. It does not meet the required setbacks of that zoning district. And if he tears down the building, he has to rebuild to those setbacks. It's a very small lot, and when you apply those required setbacks, he's got a very small buildable area, so it almost makes it unbuildable. So what he's proposing is to change the zoning to R2, which that zoning has some more flexibility regarding setbacks, and the main thing that it allows is if you have an existing non-conforming structure, if you tear it down, you're able to rebuild basically back to that same footprint, even though it doesn't meet the setbacks. So that would allow him to rebuild the building with a basement. It essentially, the footprint would be very similar to what's there right now, but this change in zoning would allow him to do that. So that is the reason for the request. The zoning itself that matches basically that entire area is already zoned R2 and is zoned and is used as residential. So it's an appropriate zoning district for that area. Any questions?
Have we contacted the adjacent property owner to see if,
Yes, they were all notified of the plan commission meeting and the council meeting.
yeah, but the adjacent property owner that has the same,
Not, he was one of the property owners notified of this request, but
right,
not
but
specifically
to say that
change
if he
his.
wanted to piggyback on it and get his changed.
No, I did not do that.
His would be the only one left. Okay, any questions on the 500 North Water Street request for rezoning? And that'll come to, for action next time. We'll move on to item D, building permits for hail damage reconstruction. Joe.
Yes, so I was asked to put this memo together. Initially, it was regarding the building permit question, but I kind of expanded it into a commonly asked questions that I've been getting, or staff has been getting since the hailstorm. So yes, the first question was, is a building permit needed? Chapter 23 of the building code does require building permits for roofing, siding, and similar repairs that we are sealing from the hail damage and throughout the year. The fee associated with that is based on the fee schedule that the Common Council approves, annually. Right now, it's a sliding schedule cost based on the cost of the project. Basically, there's 4 categories: $40, $100, $150, $200. Most of them that we've issued so far have been $100 or $150. We've been receiving a lot of questions from contractors regarding licensing requirements, registration requirements, et cetera, from the city. The city does not actually have such a requirement, but the state of Wisconsin does. It's a dwelling contractor certification licensing requirement. So we've been pointing them in the right direction if they don't already had that registration, where they can get that. But the primary purpose for that requirement is that it does have a minimum insurance requirement that the contractors have to carry. So it does provide some benefit to the property owners to make sure that their contractors are adequately insured when they're working on their properties. A lot of questions regarding the impact of to their taxes from getting a permit, which would show up, or more specifically, doing the work. So Accurate Appraisal annually reviews all the building permits that are issued in the city, and then they make a determination if there's any work that's been done that would have an impact on the value of the property that could impact the taxes. Generally, on a situation like this with hail damage, it's a case-by-case basis. If they're doing the work that would change the type of roofing material, for instance, if you're going from shingle to metal, which is a higher value material, that could impact the value, would raise the value of your property. Otherwise, it generally would not have an impact unless there's a significant difference. If you've got a 35-year-old roof that's in really poor shape and all of a sudden you get a brand new roof, obviously that's going to be an improvement. But my understanding is overall that's going to be a fairly minor impact on your taxes just because the condition of your roof overall is a very minor component in the overall determination of the value of your property. So there could be an increase, but it would be relatively minor overall. One interesting situation that is significantly more so this time than what I remember with the last hailstorm, which was in 2009, is we're getting a lot of phone calls asking for the building permit history on the properties. So specifically, all the insurance companies, or majority of them, seem to want to know when the last time the roof was installed. So it depends on the insurance company, it depends on the policy, but most of them are prorating their settlement based on the age of your roof. So the older your roof, the less money you're going to get, because they're viewing it as that roof is already reaching the end of its lifespan, compared to if it's a new roof, you're going to get more. So the permit history is turning out to be extremely important. If the permit was not issued the last time the roof was done, they don't have a record, then the property owner really doesn't have any basis to make an argument. That's a different number when what the insurance company is coming up with. So we are seeing some value in that permit history. So spending a lot of time on that. So those have been a lot of our questions so far. And just a point of interest, last year we issued 197 building permits throughout the entire year. At the end of today, we were up to 180 already, and there was another pile still ready to be processed. So we will exceed next year's total building permits before the end of this week. So we've been busy.
Okay, questions, comments, discussion? Kathy?
I do see the advantage of having a building permit. My experience with them is you have to identify the contractor, and then you can identify if they have their insurance. So that is an additional protection to the property owner. Also, when you get ready to sell your home, it's easy to look at the history through building permits of exactly what has been done. And consequently, if things have not been or have been done without a building permit, it raises a question, could raise a question. So I see the value in that. But this has been a historic storm. And I would really like the council to consider waiving the fee. I know in the full, it might not, $150, $200, whatever, might not seem like a lot, but I've been talking to a lot of people that have, with the change in insurance, with the depreciating of roofs, they're getting hit really, really hard. And I just think it would be a good gesture citizens that could maybe alleviate a little bit of the stress. So many people. And while I realize that we have incredible staff time being taken up, I can't imagine how many properties I've heard 1,000, which means that how many, if you're at 180 building permits, you got that. I would like us to consider waiving that fee this particular storm.
So you're saying waive the fee, but require the permit?
That financially, like, who would that affect? The city more than, like, who would that affect if we did not give them?
It means that Steve out here with his house would not have to pay that additional because it was through,
Right.
The property owners, because it was a storm, didn't have the option of saying, well, I need a new roof. I'm going to wait 2 or 3 years. No, it
Right.
happened now. It needs to be done.
I meant fiscally, like, I mean, financially, like, would that be a deficit on the city? Like, we wouldn't gain any money? Would department be giving this as a chair? Like, who does that affect? Where does the money go that we get for the permits?
So Joe, Lynn's question is, building permit fees go where?
Uh,
What are building permit fees used for?
They go into the general fund. They're not specifically earmarked for our department, but obviously at the budget time, we do reflect permits as revenue for our department to help offset the cost of, running the department.
So we do budget for building permit fees each year. Obviously, this is budgeted revenue due to the volume, but we will also have budgeted expenses related to the city's losses as well. There'll be deductible expense and potentially what we will get paid for roofs across the city's buildings will also be less probably than what it's going to cost to replace them. So I would say that the additional revenue would help to offset some of our additional expenses that are not within our budget.
It could be quite a bit of revenue. I mean, if there are 1,000 houses, $100 a piece, it'd be 100,000,
Yeah, it'll be a $250,000.
150,000.
And I struggle with this. I mean, I see the value of the history. I understand also that the city may experience additional loss, but Kathy may experience additional loss, and she has no one to charge to fill that gap. So I hate to think that we are using building permit fees to fill a gap because we need to, that just doesn't seem, in my estimate, that just doesn't seem right. That, oh, we're going to collect these fees so that we've filled our deductible. And now, I understand that this is an extraordinary event. So I struggle with this. I also know, having now read my own paperwork, and I don't know anybody else's insurance, but there's a line on mine that says expected fees for building permits that I'm being reimbursed for from my insurance company. So I don't know if other people have that opportunity, have that or not. I mean, everybody has their own insurance company. It all works however it works, but mine, I've now read through my line by line by line by line description. So, yeah.
I have a question, and it may be relevant or irrelevant. So people are having, let's say they have a roof that's 20 years old that needs to be replaced. The depreciation on that is basically maybe 80% of the cost of the roof that they would need to replace. I'm just throwing figures out. What I'm saying is those people that are going to incur a larger fee to replace their roof, they are the ones that are going to be actually having additional expenses of the of the difference. In other words, the insurance company is only going to pay 10, 15% of the roof's value. And we therefore could offer a reduction or eliminate those fees for those that can prove that they have their estimated cost of replacement is not, is excessive, is over 50% or over 60% or whatever. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm just thinking of a way to be fair to everyone, because to waive everyone's replacement costs when they get total replacement of 90 or 95% of the roof, they're not going to incur the expenses that somebody would have if they were going to have 20% of their roof replaced. cost? Am I causing too many problems?
I'm not looking forward to reviewing everybody's insurance policy that needs a roof in the city. I'll tell you that right now.
Well, I understand. I'm just trying to figure out if there's any simple way of doing it. Which I figure there isn't, but at least I want to make sure that people understand that if we, whatever we consider, we want to take that into account.
I have two questions, I guess. So one, could you cap it at like $50 for everybody? And just say no matter what the permit is based on the storm damage, it's $50. So you get, it would help people as well. Then the second question, I guess, is you mentioned you don't have any special licensing or registration requirements for contractors. Is that something you could impose now? Or like roofers coming from wherever to come into Platteville to fix roofs to get a little protection for the homeowners as well?
I mean, the city could do that, I guess, anytime they wanted. I think it would be difficult to do it now when, we're right in the middle of it.
Yeah, we wouldn't be able to do yeah, it would be difficult now. I think Tony makes a good compromise. And I know that we have 100 issued or however many, and that, more are on the way. But, I mean, I think that's kind of a good compromise. Then there would be a record that it was done. There would be the record, but it would provide some, revenue relative to perhaps additional work that has to be done within the department. I don't know if people are going to have to put in overtime if you're going to issue 1,000 permits. I mean, you may have additional staff costs.
Time has already started, so.
Pardon?
Overtime has already started.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that, that's a potential compromise, in my opinion, rather than the graduated 150, 100, 150, 200, whether it's 50 or whether it's 100. I mean, I think for the city to show some, that's a good word, some compassion, some understanding. I think that's a good thing.
I agree. I think it's a good recommendation by Tony. Thank you.
This was an extraordinary event. I mean, in many ways, I mean, we've had some extraordinary events, a couple of tornadoes and a couple of hailstorms, but I'm almost thinking that this one was more extraordinary than the other three. I'm just happy that I haven't heard of anybody that was actually hurt in the hailstorm. So a couple of squirrels. Yeah, a couple of squirrels made it.
And they put up a fight.
So I guess do we want them to bring this back with a motion for a reduction in fee?
I think that's a good idea.
Okay. I don't think we can take action tonight because it's not on the action portion, but we can certainly have a discussion. And I mean, we're all residents in this city, and I know several of us are facing the same issues that others, and some days it just makes you tired to try to read all the stuff that you're getting in the mail or listen to all the phone calls.
I do have a question though, Joe. Condominium developments which have multiple buildings. Depends on their condominium insurance plan, but some of them would they each unit have to take out its own permit?
The ones that have requested them so far, they've been individually.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what it would be. I would think it's
Because the insurance policy, at least for mine, covers we have to pay a certain percentage of everything. And so I'm just
Yeah.
wanting to take that in consideration. I want to just know whether people are coming in for single. So all of a sudden we don't have people coming in and saying, oh, my condominium development or HOA is supposed to handle that, and I shouldn't have to pay that.
We haven't got that yet, so.
So each dwelling, I would think, and probably apartment buildings, something else. Okay, I think we've had discussion on that and we have some idea of how to compromise. So let's move on to item E, administrative policy, personal use of City of Platteville vehicles.
Thank you, Madam President. Tonight, we're presenting administrative policy regarding the personal use of City of Platteville vehicles. It's for the Common Council to review and discuss. Again, it's administrative policy that would fall in the authority of the city manager, but as we're dealing with city assets, certainly appropriate to get your feedback on this. The policy is drafted with the intentions to enable designated employees to save time and/or city resources in responding to emergency conditions, such as, but without limitation to, fire emergencies, water main breaks, water plant or sewer plant emergencies, sewer lift station emergencies, weather-related emergencies, etc. Input has been given by the affected department directors and thoroughly investigated with the city HR manager, who has spent quite a bit of time digging into IRS code regulations, as there is a taxing component that is sometimes applicable. The policy is presented again for your considerations tonight. Some of the main concerns that typically you'd see with a policy like this is it an appropriate use? And the language that we would have in the policy stated right underneath the first paragraph in the policy block is the city manager or city manager designee has the authority to grant or remove permission to the employees to utilize the city-owned or leased vehicle to commute to and from work. Employees are permitted to make stops and minimally deviate from their normal commuting routes for personal business. It's also important to notice the language that would say the employee's approval to utilize owned leased vehicles to commute to and from work is not granted as a condition of employment and is not mandatory to any position in the city of Platteville. So such things could be revoked if it was deemed to be inappropriate use having with these. But again, the intent here is, like we saw with the Pine Street situation, like we frequently see with weather events or responding to fires, is to allow for a more rapid response in saving life, infrastructure, and other additional costs. Madam.
Okay, questions, comments, considerations that you want to discuss about this policy?
Give me an example. I'm just curious what personal vehicles are used by the city.
Matt,
I'll defer to HR manager Chad Wilson, who came all the way in to join us tonight.
All the way,
Yeah.
from one
All
block
day.
away, Chad?
It's about 6 blocks. I did drive.
Your own vehicle or a city vehicle?
It was definitely my own vehicle. I am not on this list of potentially approved employees. But perfect example. I mean, I'd like to start first and foremost by saying there are a couple of individuals listed on here that would be approved that already utilize this. The fire chief is one of them, and our street superintendent has been approved in the past to take a vehicle home for weather events periodically, just to save them time to respond to those weather events and check road conditions straight from their home instead of, spending the time and the resource to come all the way into the shop, unlock the truck, and go out. We did actually have a perfect example of this happen in January, where we had given a temporary approval to use a vehicle to our utility superintendent for personal reasons that he requested. And he was actually able to respond to a water main break directly from his home, was able to work with the water valves, shut that water down. And the amount of water that it actually saved the city by being able to respond directly to it instead of going all the way down to the wastewater treatment plant, unlock the gate, get in the vehicle, start that, and get out there was a very significant amount. I don't know if it was thousands or hundreds of thousands of gallons of water. I don't recall what he said, but Howard's kind of laughing at
thousands
of gallons
not hundreds
of water.
of thousands.
Could have
Please.
been. It
Oh,
could
that
have
was
been.
waters, that was.
But that is
Fire
that's a perfect example. Is the ability to not only respond for public safety reasons, the quicker we get there, the better it is, but also for city resources and cost.
So I'm assuming these employees live within the city of Platteville. That we're not saying somebody who lives in Dubuque can take a city of Platteville vehicle home.
That's correct.
They do not live in the city necessarily.
Within a reasonable distance. I believe the street superintendent is 2 miles from the city limits, and the utility superintendent, I believe, is 4 to 6 miles from city limits. Fire chief is within. We do not have a residency requirement for those positions, so
Actually, it's illegal to have a residency
I
requirement,
know that. So,
in case others didn't know, and I know that.
but that's also the reason that this is not mandatory or a condition of employment to any position. We have the ability to grant this in the appropriate circumstance. So this is essentially a policy put in place for us to be able to kind of monitor and allow that when we need to.
I do have a question. Your recommendation, if we did have a policy on restrictive mileage from the city, is there any mileage that you would indicate that you would think would be reasonable or have researched that other communities have?
I have not researched that yet. I don't have an answer for that.
Okay, that's all right. I just was wondering. Because it's a question we'll have to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, as of right now, the impacted individuals that would potentially be there do have at least town of Platteville addresses at a maximum.
Thank you.
So now, how would this work? If I'm on call Monday through Friday, I can take the car home if I'm on the list?
No.
Or do you take the car? How would this be impacted? Only when there's a need for, like, so we know that the hail is coming next week or whatever, tomorrow.
Mm.
So I would take it home so I don't have to come back. How does this work?
Right. I mean, the fire chief is daily because it's basically a 24/7
Right.
situation on call. One of the other individuals on here would be the street superintendent. That is seasonally. That would be in the event of potential, severe weather conditions, potentially some in the, if there are, heavy wind conditions or whatnot, because there are things other than just snow and ice. There are trees that fall and things like that in heavy wind conditions. So it's a potential that, he could get approval to take it home at that point. The utility superintendent is also one that is 24/7, 365.
Clint, I see the word permitted. I don't see the word privilege in this. We're granting these employees a privilege. And, we are the ones that take the brunt of vehicles appearing in other places, not in the city of Platteville. And why are they there? So I want people to understand that the people that are getting this, that are being permitted, that this is a privilege that has been granted. And just like any other privilege, there are responsibilities that relate to the privilege.
I can relate to that. I understand that fully. On behalf of those employees, though, that are receiving this privilege,
I understand.
we're certainly do ask a lot of them
Right.
in making themselves available
Right.
some very unpleasant hours.
And I agree with that. I agree with that.
Just the verbiage, correct?
Right now, we say that it is not a condition of employment. It is not mandatory. to any position of the
Right.
city of Platteville.
Right.
Essentially, that arrives with the authority and this stops
Right.
now. But yes.
I was like, with privilege comes responsibility. Maybe that's because I'm a mom. You know, that whole privilege and responsibility thing, you know? Okay. Anybody else with questions? This is an administrative policy, so it will not come to us for approval. We probably will not see it again.
Unless there is an issue and we need to bring it back, and you would have right now, if somebody says, no, I would like this brought back for a vote and consideration, otherwise we will go forward with it. Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is annual reports and strategic planning.
Hey, this is a bit of a heads up, get ready, kind of buckle your seatbelt type of an item here. We have strategic planning and comprehensive planning that is going to be coming in as we took action on in the previous meetings to get those lined up. In preparation for that, my directors are nearly complete on these, have put together recorded annual reports. And with this is to try to help put the different conditions and such that are in place, but to try not to use your meeting time to gobble up all that time. So we have the reports, they're near complete, and we'll have them posted on the internet. We'll send the link out to you folks to watch at your convenience. So as we reach our strategic planning events and kind of step-offs, you'll have an understanding from a department perspective on where we're at and what our challenges are and what our opportunities are. With that as well, we're going to be meeting with our folks from Southwest Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission to start putting together a timeline on the different objectives that we want to achieve and what that schedule is going to look like and some dates. So anticipate in the near future that I'll probably be sending out like a doodle poll type of a thing on when are some availabilities and some preferences for timing for yourselves, and also consideration of ensuring that we have accessibility for citizens to observe and to participate in those types of conversations. And then with it too, keep in mind though that our comprehensive planning and our strategic planning are going to be initiatives that are going to carry us through the next 5 years or so. While we're having these conversations, we're also going to have to focus in on what we're doing already next year and why it would be ideal to have our full 5-year plans into place and start setting 2026. Nature of the beast is going to be, we're going to make the best decisions we can in kind of building 2026, but moving forward, coming back and reviewing those plans as they continue to evolve down the line. So be on the lookout for those items. They should be coming to you, and hoping already at the next council meeting that we have another either information discussion, possibly into a work session on strategic planning. Madam President.
Okay, questions, comments, considerations, anyone? I guess I only have one comment. As I read regional media releases, I see, the whole issue of innovation and how do we distinguish ourselves and how do we move forward. To me, strategic planning is about putting big ideas out there that you're going to go for. And I mean, there are communities around that are having these meetings to develop the big ideas they're going to go for, the innovative ideas, the new things. I don't want us to get stuck in doing what we've always done. Because if we get stuck in doing what we've always done, we're going to get what we always got. And we're not going to have new points of pride, and we're not going to have innovation. So I think, the challenge is to put some big ideas out there that you're going to go for.
Support that entirely. At the same time, I would say from our bias is that if we're going to do something big, new, what do we want to take off the plate that we were doing?
Maybe we'll have to take some things off the plate. And that's okay too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because maybe those things just aren't, maybe they're just, maybe they're the same old, and we're just in a swirl, just doing the same old thing, doing the same old thing, doing the same old thing. So just because we've done it doesn't mean sometimes that it's something we need to continue. So, yeah. Okay. I guess we're on to letter G then, which is the contract for the Aquatic Center Construction Manager. And I think this is the tag team of Clinton by Robert.
I will start it off and then defer to Bob. City of Platteville is listed construction manager services for a replacement of the aquatic center. Is intended that the city will contract with a construction manager at risk to manage the reconstruction of the facility. Parks, Forestry, and Recreation Director Robert Lau will be leading the evaluation process. Some of the key components to the process and consideration include, you'll see the bullets there for the process, which includes making sure that we're within purchasing policy. The RFP has been reviewed by the city manager, director, city engineer. The panel will review the applications and give guidance to myself to make the recommendation to you folks, hopefully as early as May 27th, as we're trying to get these things in place with facilitating it to the best of our ability for a potential 2026 opening. Now, keep in mind, everything has to fit in line to do that. It is probably more realistic and probable that it will be a 2027 event. But if that happens, we want to make sure that's more of a weather related contingent on why it happened and not an administrative contingent on why it happened. Some of the considerations for the panel are laid out there that we will be evaluating, and I will defer to Bob on further filling in the details and kind of the different actions that are going on behind the scenes.
Yes, thank you. So it is published, and we personally sent it out to 5 potential CMARs. I've had responses from 3. Some key dates. The proposal submit date is Tuesday, May 20th. Proposal question deadline is May 15th. Interviews, if needed, on or before May 27th. And then we'll present to council to award on or before June 11th. And as Clint said, project target completion date of July 1st, 2026.
Questions, anyone?
I have a question.
Okay.
I'm confused. Is this because when we did RFPs for the pool design, we went with JEO for phase 1 and phase 2. Is this phase 3?
No, not necessarily. JEOs do not conflict with the CMAR. His job, I should say, will not change. He's still got to design and follow and work with the CMAR. The CMAR is more for city's protection, making sure that the contractors stay and the fee will be targeted within that 5.8 million. So it is a recommendation actually from JEO to go with the CMAR, just so that somebody's watching the budget and the contracting, and not that JEO won't be there as well, as it is in their contract. But this construction men are at risk. It's just kind of insurance. Their fee structure is based on the total package of bid.
What approximately would the cost be for this construction manager?
And that's what they'll be in the proposals, what their fee structure will be
But
based
we
on.
don't have any idea, right? I mean,
Till we read their proposals, I guess.
Yeah, they have the numbers that they have to work within. Our total package of the 6.9 target, and that is broken down by JEO on approximate construction costs and management fee and overrun fees. So we got some basic numbers from JEO already. And
okay,
they,
so the JEO contract is the same, and with that and with this construction manager, it still falls within the 6.9.
that is correct.
That was my question. It looked,
Okay.
to me, it looked like we were adding another layer, and where was that money coming from?
Yep.
But if it's all within the,
Ladies, it's gonna kind of feel that the layout of it is gonna feel how we engaged with building the fire facility, where Wendell Five Bugles was your engineer architects. And then we contracted with Kramer
Kramer
to do
to
the
do-
oversight. And then they're able to bid on doing some of the work up to 50% of it where they can do themselves, but then they're in charge of overall monitoring the entire project.
So yeah, the construction manager at risk process is the same process that we used for the fire station. Doug left, but that is not the process that we had used for the police department.
May I have a comment? I had a conversation with a few other people from Southwest Wisconsin. They're having difficulties also replacing their pools. And most of them have the same problem we had. And they're having more of a difficult time being able to get funding than we have been able to, because they just don't have the budgetary amount in order to do that. So I want the city to know and the citizens to know that we're very fortunate, because many of these communities that have pools no longer have pools and are not meeting actually what their residents would like. So we are very fortunate, and I have to give recommendations and comments to our pool committee and to staff that have worked on this. Thank you very much, and it's very much appreciated because we're very fortunate.
Okay, I think, Bob?
Just had a quick question. Bob, could you state those dates again,
Sure.
please? Like when the RFQs due?
Yeah, and they're right on that front page of, and so everybody knows it is on our website and they are accessing it. But the proposal question deadline is May 15th. So that it just gives, those, so when they send me questions, I can, do my homework and be able to respond in a very timely manner. The proposals are due 4 p.m. on May 20th. And then if we need interviews, if we have some that we're trying to decide on, we will do the interviews on or before May 27th. And then we will ask council to award on or before June 11th.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, any additional questions? Today's a warm day. I think we're gonna be having people hope we have a pool. I can see that coming. Okay, since there is nothing else on their agenda, I would ask for the one final motion that we need.
Also move that we adjourn.
Second.
Okay, motion by Tom and a second by Bob to adjourn. Colette will vote.
Cop,
Yes.
Null,
Yes.
Parrot,
Yes.
McFall,
Yes.
Doss,
Yes.
Gates,
Yes.
motion carries.